So I'd like to understand a little bit more about how this works. Just say I've got Drummond vineyards consisting of three vineyard sites, somewhere, let's say Finger Lakes here.
Yeah,
And I've been doing this, my family's had this since the early days, conventional agriculture for the most part,
mhm.
viticulture. And I've been doing quite well. I've got some pretty heavy yields going on there, at least heavier yields for the region for sure. And I've got this whippersnapper who's coming at me from from the sustainability program, trying to sell me on this. Like, how do you sell that to a grower who is a little bit more old school, shall we say?
Of course, of course. So again, the real big aspect of this is economics, right? It's one of the
Yes.
core pillars. And sustainability oftentimes means using fewer inputs, which means saving money. So there is really that big economic aspect. On top of that, it translates hopefully into preferential purchasing, if not price premiums from the consumer at the end bottle of wine point. So that means if wineries are wanting to make wines that they can market to consumers as sustainable, they might be willing to pay a price premium for your grapes. And if not, maybe they'll preferentially seek out your grapes and you won't have excess crops in bumper years because your grapes were more desirable. So that's really the selling point is showing how you can improve, how you can conserve your farm for your future generations more effectively, how you can save some money, and perhaps how you can make a little bit more money by putting in a little bit extra effort.
So it's basically trying to convince these people to move from quantity to quality with their grapes, right?
Not necessarily because you can be sustainable as a quantity grower, right? We don't want to necessarily mess with their business model, right? If they're growing tons to go into, something like Taylor Port, you can still be sustainable and grow Concord on that level. We just want to make sure that they understand that they're doing it in a responsible method.
I'm sorry I called you a whippersnapper there.
No, you're
That was not
good.
supposed to be an insult. It was supposed to be me playing an older farmer there. And what kind of buy-in have you had from these wine growers throughout the region?
I mean, honestly, phenomenal support. The program wouldn't be where it is without them. When the program was getting up and running, huge support in terms of discussing the standards, discussing uh, where we should, focus our marketing efforts moving forward. And then in the first year, we had 50 vineyards that were certified throughout the state. In the second year of certification, we have another 25 vineyards becoming certified. There's been great push and great buy-in amongst growers. They really see this as the future, and they really see it as something that's important for them and for the wine industry in New York as a whole. So it's really heartening to see that we're doing something that they seem to like and that they seem to view as useful.
Fantastic, fantastic. So that was 2023 when those certifications started appearing on the tops of the bottles, right?
Well, no certifications have appeared on the bottles. So how it works is we certify a vineyard starting in a year. So we certified our first crop of vineyards in 2023, and then all grapes grown in certified vineyards can be made into wine that can then bear the trust mark of made with certified sustainable grapes. So
I
we're going to start seeing the trust mark on bottles coming up in 2024 and 2025 from wines made of grapes grown in 2023.
excuse my ignorance there. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
Now what was I going to say? You have some quite strict definitions for what a vineyard is when you certify it, right?
Yes. So again, we're trying to be very clear here. We're not certifying any winemaking processes
Yeah,
as of
that's
yet.
fine.
We're purely certifying the vines and the grapes grown therein. However, that being said, what we're certifying includes practices that are not just viticultural practices, right? How are you economically managing your vineyard? How are you socially treating the employees that work in your vineyard? And so I think that also separates us from something like biodynamic and organic. Is sustainability is more than just in the field practices.
Yeah,
And that goes for all sustainability certifications, in California, in New Zealand, it really encompasses more than just what you spray.
sure. Now, what with sustainability having been very zeitgeisty for about 10 years in the wine world, how do you convince the consumer that it's not greenwashing?
Yeah, no, that's a perfect question. And that's something that we're facing because sustainability is everywhere. You have to be
Mm.
really careful when you're looking because everyone's trying to grab a little piece of the market. But that being said, it's kind of a great word. It kind of, again, really encompasses everything we're looking for. There's a great survey that I like to put in my presentations where what are consumers looking for? And then it has, environmentally friendly in production, and then it has like fair trade as part of the top three. Well, sustainability encompasses
Yep,
both of those, right? The fair trade, this is social aspect, and the environmentally friendly, the environmental aspect, it encompasses those. So really, we're working to kind of reclaim the word of sustainability from larger corporations. And I think the wine industry as a whole is doing a great job. If you look at all the sustainability certifications in the wine industry, 90% of them are phenomenal and doing a great job of communicating to the consumer
sure.
that if you see a wine bottle with a sustainability certification on it, you can trust it. You can know that you're responsibly purchasing. So it's an uphill battle. Obviously, education is the first step. But I think being part of the global community with shared standards and shared values is going a long way into bringing sustainability back into the mind's eye as something trustworthy.
Super, super. And connected to that, I guess, is are any kind of questions I would have about accountability. How are these wineries audited over time if they do apply to be part of this program?
Yeah, of course. So I'll just run through the certification process real quick.
Sure, yeah.
Um, they fill out the Vine Balance workbook themselves. And the Vine Balance workbook I was talked about is yearly updated again from academics and shareholders both, talking about changes that need to be made, making sure it's caught up with best scientific practices while also being feasible for the grower at the same time. And they're trying to achieve a minimum score on that. Now, once they fill it out, and if in their own eyes they meet the minimum score, we then send out an auditor there. And the auditor essentially pores through their records, goes through the workbook with them, asks them questions, tours their vineyard, and oftentimes changes the score. Sometimes up, a lot of times down. I think a lot of people are a bit overly optimistic.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
And then following this inspection, if they still meet the minimums, then they'll be certified. We do also have a clause in there that if they make score one on any of the items in our workbook,
Which is
so
one
you
of
can score,
the lower scores, right?
yes, you can score one through a four. They need to accompany that with an action plan that shows how within the next 3 years they will raise that one to a minimum of a two. So we're kind of getting the entry ramps a little bit easier, but forcing them to improve because sustainability is all about constant improvement. So
Sure.
once a vineyard's certified, right, their grapes can be made into wine and then bear the trust mark. And then that's when we do chain of custody audits. So any winery wishing to make wine that bears the trust marks needs to submit receipts on what's in that bottle and where those grapes are coming from. So we can go and be like, okay, this vineyard doesn't produce any Riesling, but you're saying you bought Riesling from them, put in your bottle. So we can cross-reference and ensure that everything is going well. But luckily, we've had no problems so far. I think everyone in this program really believes in this program and wants it to work and realizes that integrity is the core of any sustainability certification. But we do have checks in place to ensure that we're not greenwashing and that no one's taking advantage of the seal.
I hear you. I hear you. And just to be clear, these are third-party auditors that come in to do those in-person auditing, right?
Precisely, yes.
Right.
Not affiliated with the New York Wine and Grape Foundation or
I see.
with the winery
That's
themselves. Yeah,
important. Yeah, excellent. Well, I think with this program, you are going to get a new level of trust in the wines of New York for sure. It looks like one of the the most forward-thinking sustainability programs I've looked at. I've really enjoyed the way that New Zealand have been putting together their sustainability program. But I've enjoyed seeing the development of, I think it was it? It was uh, Whitney Beeman, who was doing this previous to you in this
Mhm.
position, right? And it's nice to see how it's evolved from what she was doing into what you're bringing about today. I look forward to seeing these new certifications on the bottles when they do arrive in Canada. Justin, thank you very much for joining us at Good Food Revolution today. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.